being a blogger, I've noticed more and more as I've started to kind of delve into like the lifestyle blogging piece that there's so many DIY bloggers out there. Like, why do you think DIY is so popular now?
You know, just like what you said to me, the reason why DIY is so big because we have all these amazing talents all over the world who are putting their heart and soul and creativity out there for everybody else to get inspired by and to learn from so other people can create. So, you know, before we had the amazing internet and websites and platforms like Pinterest and you know, YouTube's, that for the most part people just had to figure them out themselves and find their own inspiration. And as you and I know, not everybody is the most artistic or creative, but I think that, you know, really opening up the world to so many of these cool platforms has allowed, just like you said, bloggers to share their knowledge with so many people. And at the end of the day, people have always wanted to be creative and make things and feel good and be empowered. So, you know, it's always been around, but now it's really at the forefront, which is such an exciting thing.
You know, you mentioned that, everybody's creative, and as much as I like to feel like I'm creative, I always joke and say I'm like so not a crafty person. I just don't know how to put this stuff together. Like, I see these great things, but I'm like, how in the world do you do that? So what's like a simple project for somebody who wants to express their creativity, but they don't feel like they're crafty?
Sure. Well, listen, I have just the project for you, okay? Right here, I've got a geode wall accessory rack, and you can hang your jewelry on it because I feel like someone like you's got to have a lot of jewelry, and it's kind of like, where do you hang it all? So instead of keeping it crumpled in a drawer, you want to display it. So this is kind of like fashion and function at once that you can do over the weekend. Anyone can do this, especially you. All you need is a wooden plank, your favorite color is spray paint. You could either use a geode rock or you could use a dresser drawer pull, and you need some extra strength adhesive. Once your paint has totally dried, I always recommend 2 coats. You want to use your adhesive to stick on the back of whatever you choose for your hook and let that sit for a full 24 hours. And that is all you need to do. So if you can spray paint, you can squeeze some glue, you're good to go. And you can create a piece that's so dramatic, it looks like it came from a high-end boutique.
Now, time for fall. I know people are thinking of ways that they can transition their homes to fall, spruce up things for fall. Do you have any DIY projects for that?
Listen, I have DIY projects for everything, but especially for fall, one of my favorite things, I love to incorporate plants in the house, and whether they be on the front porch to, you know, entryways to dining room tables, succulents are kind of my thing right now, I gotta say. And they're pretty inexpensive too. The only thing, they come in these containers that aren't the most attractive. Excuse me. They're either maybe a terracotta color or like a dark hunter green, but I love metallics because they look chic and expensive. So whether you go for chrome or rose gold, there's a spray paint with your name on it, and in 10 minutes you can have something that looks terrific, kind of like what you've seen here.
Where are you getting the tools and supplies that you need to do all of these DIY projects?
You know, everything you see here comes from different places, but I've partnered with True Value Hardware, and you can see a lot of these things came from True Value, and a lot of the things came from my own studio and craft closet too. I think the idea about purchasing things for projects is kind of this beautiful thing where you might buy a can of spray paint once, but you can use this for hundreds and hundreds of projects. So you're really just investing in the lifestyle when you purchase things. You know, DIY is all about breathing life into new things and incorporating existing items you have at home. So it's really a combination of both aspects of going to the hardware store and kind of going into your junk drawers too and seeing how you can reinvent them.
Now, let's say I have just a weekend free. So I'm a blogger, so I'm traveling. I'm actually traveling right now. So I'm super busy all the time. But let's say I have one weekend, and it's like, okay, here's the one project that I can do in a weekend from start to finish. What would be your, like, one project you would say, do this?
That's a great question. I mean, for me personally, I'm a huge art fan, especially, you know, wall art to me is an awesome addition to any home. So this is actually one of my favorite projects, and all you need, listen, even when you're on the road, just order everything online. By the time you're back, it'll be at your front step. Using some plain craft feathers and choosing some really fun spray paint colors by layering them with those fun techniques outside. Once they're dry, I would simply cut them, layer them, do them in a cool shape. I personally like the spiral with a little bit of using your glue gun, and you just put that right on a piece of foam core. If you have a really pretty frame to pop that in, that's kind of all you need. And that is a weekend project. And this is something, if you're thinking, what do I get my friend for their wedding? Or how can I update, my living room? Wall art is the answer.
Now, this all sounds amazing. It sounds great. It looks cool. But I know that there's been some project that you have tried to DIY, and it was an epic fail. So what was one DIY project that you tried that it just didn't work out?
That's a good question. I feel like I get that a lot, and I'd love to give you an answer. And I'm not trying to cover anything up, but I think that when I'm working on a project and it's not working out, honestly, I kind of do the old pencils down rule. Remember that when you were in school? Pencils down, time's up. Because for me, if I feel like something's not working, I don't want to force it. The whole idea about DIY, that nothing has to be perfect, this is not a factory-made item, but at the end of the day, you want to feel good about it. And when it's not feeling good, take a minute. And I think that's why making things with friends is is just a kind of great route to go. Doing things together gives you a different eye to say hey, what do you think about this? Or hey, maybe I'd add this over there. Or why don't you try that? Because let's be honest, sometimes there are fails, or maybe you just need some help going in the right direction. So that's always my number one tip. Instead of DIY, do it yourself, I kind of say DIT, do it together.
That sounds fun. Yeah, you're here, you're inspiring us and other people to come up with these great DIY projects. But what inspires you to come up with these ideas?
People like you inspire me all the time that I meet. So when people say, I'm looking for this for my kids' room, or my girlfriends and I are having a bachelorette party. So I find inspiration walking down the street and talking to people like you every day. And everything that you see here, you can go to truevalueprojects.com to get the how-to and get inspired yourself.
Now, where can we find more from you and more inspiration for DIY ideas?
Well, just like I said, you got to go to truevalueprojects.com. And also, I always say walk down the street and have your camera, take pictures, go through magazines, because inspiration's everywhere. So from Pinterest to the hardware store, it's hard not to find inspiration.
Yeah, you mentioned, doing projects with friends and family. What are some other ways to make it fun, to not feel like it's so much of a chore or a task, but to just keep it really fun?
You know what? I blast loud music. That is my top thing I do. If I have loud music on, I am guaranteed to have a good time when I'm crafting. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, Jonna.
That sounds cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.